What if Deku joined Team JPDE? Chapter 41. The Forest of Barito. Monday. Day 120. Her conditions are stable. She's no longer in any immediate danger, Peach said. Thank goodness. But the immediate worries me, especially since we can't move her, Jack said. Indeed. And not just because of her injuries, Peach said. What should we do? We can't leave her alone like this, David said. But we also cannot stay away from Beacon for a prolonged period of time, Penny said. Well, you can't. I can. I'm not a student, Titania said. I was about to say just that. Me, Titania and Miss Damerot are going to miss a couple days of school, Peach said. Hey. Me. Me too, Evelyn asked. Well, yes. Miss Polendina's presence is no longer necessary since she managed to reprogram the clinic's operational tools to Janara's vitals. But in case her condition worsens again, we're going to need your semblance again. At least for the following 2 days, we need to be prepared, Peach said. Of course. Yes, we can't leave anything to chance, Evelyn said. I understand you may still be tired, but think of it as a small vacation. There's really little chance of anything catastrophic happening, Professor Peach said. Professor Peach, Deku said. Yes. What is it, Mr. Midoriya, Peach asked. Could I also stay as well, Deku asked. Would you mind giving me an explanation as why you want to stay, Peach asked. Back home, I met a girl named Eri. When I first met her, she was running away from a man called Kaichiseki. She ran into me, and I could tell she was scared. She held on to me tight, not wanting to let go. But as soon as Chiseki threatened me, an upper-class man, she went back to him, and I let her go. Later I learned that she was being used to create quirk-destroying bullets, and when I say she was being used, I mean her body was being cut up and repaired over and over again to make these bullets. And she's only 7. I don't want to abandon another innocent girl that needs my help ever again, Deku said. I see. As a teacher I would say no, the 3 of us would be able to protect Janara. But as a mother I can't say no to your request, Peach said. Thank you, Deku said. Now I shall radio in Glinda and tell her about the situation. Well, sort of, Peach said. Professor Peach then left to contact Glinda. Is she alright, Evelyn asked. She's safe and sound now and is well on the road to recovery, Deku said. That's good to hear, Evelyn said. Evelyn. Are you okay? You've been acting kind of off since last night, David said. No, I'm fine. Just a bit tired, Evelyn said. Are you sure, David asked. Positive. And anyway, we got enough on our plate with Janara for you to worry about me as well. Now GIT. You have 2 absences to cover for, Evelyn said. Alright, I'll trust you, Evelyn. But I'm checking on you each evening, love, David said. What about me? Don't you care for your boyfriend, Deku asked. I'll check up on you too, Deku, David said. Thank you. Now be off with you, Deku said. Actually, could we talk in private, Izuku, David asked. Sure. Let's go inside the clinic, Deku said. David and Deku then started to walk towards the clinic. And no eavesdropping on us, okay, Evelyn, Deku said. Hey. I respect privacy. Not my fault I have all-knowing ears, Evelyn said. Then I guess we should chop them off, David said. Then what control would you have over me in bed, Evelyn said. Fair point, David said. David and Deku then entered the clinic. It's just a couple days. It can wait, Evelyn said. Inside the clinic. So, what is it that you want to talk about, Deku asked. Do you remember what we were talking about when we were here last time? I remember you starting to ask me a question, before being interrupted by Janara's dragon. I assume you want to finish that question, Deku said. Yes, Have you ever thought that you could easily hurt people all the time with your quirk? David asked. I always have. I have the power of All Might, the former #1 hero within me. I always have to think about not causing serious harm to others, even to myself. And since you're asking me this question, I assume your semblance can allow you to easily harm others, Deku said. Not harm. I can erase them, I guess, David said. What does that mean? Deku asked. Seal told me I could turn people into aura batteries. Using my semblance, with just a touch I can force aura to be produced, and in doing so, cause their soul to be eaten away to produce aura. And all it takes is for me to will it to happen. I don't want to be able to do that, David said. Do you want to turn people into aura batteries? Deku asked. No. Of course not, David said. Then you have nothing to fear. As you said, it depends on your will, so if you don't want to then it won't happen. Don't be afraid of your semblance, you're the one in control, remember, Deku said. You're right. Thank you, David said. You're welcome, Deku said. The two then went to leave the clinic. Though, you could use it as a threat. Make someone reconsider who they are crossing, Deku said. I never thought I'd hear you ever say a thing like that, David said. And I never thought I would have 2 girlfriends and a boyfriend, Deku said. The two then left the clinic. Jack, Penny and David then boarded the Bullhead and headed back to Vale. So, what are we going to do to pass the time? Titania asked. I'm gonna take a nap. I'm still tired from last night, Evelyn said. I think it's time you two are brought in on things, Deku said. Yes please. I want to know all about your world, Peach said. Yeah, no thanks. I already have one world's history to learn, I don't need another one, Titania said. So, what are you going to do then? Deku asked. I think I'll just walk around Peak for a bit. Have a good look at things we may have missed earlier, Titania said. Just be sure to stay near the clinic, and don't wander off to the mines, Peach. I'm not a child. I know where to go, Titania said. Just making sure, Peach said. Deku, Evelyn and Professor Peach then headed to the clinic, while Titania started to walk around the explored area of Peak. Jack, Penny and David had arrived back at Beacon and went to class. Now they were in the mess hall having lunch. Are you still worried about them? Jack asked. Yeah. Can't help it, sorry, David said. I keep thinking, what if they suddenly decide to come back and finish the job? I know they all can handle themselves, but I can't help but worry, David said. That's probably not going to happen. If they wanted to completely halt our advance, Weza would have just killed Janara. He just wanted to slow us down, Jack said. Advance, yes, but at the pace they dictate. I think they didn't foresee our involvement with Amber, which allowed us to make shorter work of Janara than they expected, Penny said. Yeah, that's probably it, but David said. What is it? Jack asked. It's about Evelyn, Penny said. What about Carrots? Jack asked. She looked a bit off after the surgery. She said she was just tired, but I don't know, David said. She was using her semblance all throughout the surgery. Maybe she saw something while observing Janara, Jack said. Perhaps. But then why couldn't she just tell us about it? Penny asked. Also, I had the impression that she wanted to get back to Beacon but held off because they needed her, David said. It's a possibility, but Carrots is not stupid. I'm sure she would have told us if it was something that terrible, or dangerous. And Izuku is with her. If anything is bothering her, he'll notice and get it out of her, Jack said. I know, but even if it's just something that makes her hurt, I don't like it, David said. In the Beacon dormitory, Pfuthair Cinder laughed. Is something that matter? Emerald asked. I was thinking how. I was expecting trouble, some resistance, many more difficulties than we're actually having. And the moment we get some, it's from the most unlikely of sources, or completely unknown third parties, Cinder said. With such weird requests, too. The hell do they care about keeping the jeeps occupied for? Mercury asked. The what? Please don't tell me that's not a meathead nickname for Team Jade, Emerald said. Rolls off the tongue just right, doesn't it? Mercury said. Okay, that's quite enough. Returning to our main topic. I think it's time to cash in on that favor, Cinder said. Back at peak. And that pretty much it. That's the history of one for all and all for one, Deku said. Fascinating, Peach said. Do you have any questions? Deku asked. Indeed, I do. I have many questions that would keep us here for several more hours. But I think we should end it for the day. We've been sitting here for long enough. And it'll give me some time to write down my many questions, Peach said. Yeah. I think I'll go on a walk, Deku said. If that's so, mind just checking up on Titania? Peach asked. Alright. When do you want to continue? Deku asked. How about after my dust lesson on Thursday? We should be back at Beacon by then, Peach said. Very well then. Do you want to know more about quirks or something else? Deku asked. I would be very interested in know about your world's achievements, pre and post quirks, as it's the advances in technology that tell the most about the world, Peach said. You best prepare for a long history lesson, Deku said. As long as you don't speak as fast as Professor Jade-Black, I'm looking forward to it, Peach said. Deku then left the clinic and walked around looking for Titania. He soon found Titania sitting in a patch of wildflowers. What kind of flowers are they? Deku asked. Izuku, you scared me, Titania said. Sorry, Deku said. It's not your fault. I shouldn't have been so distracted, Titania said. You really like plants, don't you? Deku said. Yeah, Mom had a lot of books on science stuff. I found most of them boring, but the books on plants were very interesting, Titania said. Deku chuckled. What's so funny? You think I only liked the plant books because of the pretty color? Well, you're wrong. It was mostly the reason, Titania said. Not that. I was just thinking about how fast you started calling Professor Peach Mom, Deku said. Well, she looks after me, provides me a home, and feeds me, or at least tries to with that last one. Really wish I knew how to cook, Titania said. How about I teach you to cook then, Deku said. You will? Titania asked. Yeah. You can't be any worse than Professor Peach, Deku said. Very true, Titania said. I'll let you know when I'm free to teach you, Deku said. Alright, Titania said. Now let's go back to the clinic. It'll be dark soon, Deku said. Deku and Titania then returned to the clinic. That night Deku received a visit. Izuku, can we talk? Amber asked. Oh, sure. What is it? Deku said. You know how I'm connected to you and David, Amber said. Yeah, it's the reason why I was able to see something when I touched Cinder. If this is still about that, I am really sorry that you went through that, Deku said. It's alright. You were doing it for me, but that is not what this is about, Amber said. Then what is it about? Deku asked. Well, when David and Evelyn did it, I couldn't disconnect in time, and so Amber said. Oh, Deku said. After that experience I couldn't help but want more, but I didn't want to intrude on your privacy. So I settled for giving David good dreams, Amber said. And by good dreams you mean? Deku asked. Yeah, Amber said. Okay, and why are you telling me this? Deku asked. When I reconnected to you when you and Cinder, I could feel pleasure from the both of you. And, after I ran, I had time to think about it and found that I actually kind of enjoyed it. Of course that was overshadowed by my hatred towards Cinder, but it remained in the back of my mind, Amber said. Okay. So what are you getting at? Deku asked. I would like it if you'll allow me to influence your dreams. You'll give me a request and I'll fulfill it, Amber said. Is that what you told David? Deku asked. No, I haven't even told him I'm doing it, Amber said. Why? He has a right to know, Deku said. I know, but I've been doing it for such a long time. How would he react? Amber asked. Amber. He's your friend, and he wants to help you get back into the real world. I'm sure if you come clean, he'll understand, Deku said. Okay. I will. But not this week. I need to prepare myself, Amber said. That's perfectly alright, Deku said. So? Can I? Amber said. Deku sighed. Alright. I'll give it a chance. But the dreams can only involve you, Deku said. Of course. And thank you, Amber said. Amber then planted her lips on Deku before disappearing. Deku smiled and closed his eyes, prepared for Amber's dream. Tuesday. Day 121. Deku and Evelyn were cuddling on the steps outside the clinic. Evelyn's scroll then went off. Hey love. What's up? Evelyn asked. That's my question. How are you holding up? Both of you, David asked. Hi, Evelyn. Hi, Ijuku, Penny said. Hey, Penny. We're doing fine, we should be back in Beacon by tomorrow, Deku said. Janara's body is crazy. Even without aura, she's healing up incredibly fast. She should be waking up any moment now, according to Professor Peach, Evelyn said. That's good to know. And what about you specifically, Evelyn? David asked. I'm fine, thank you, Evelyn said. Fine enough to tell me what's bothering you? David asked. It's something new. With my semblance, I mean. But I have it under control, Evelyn said. Evelyn, you should have told us. I think you need to see my father, Penny said. Penny's right. You should have gone back, Deku said. I know, but you heard Professor Peach. We couldn't just leave Janara like that. She needed our help, and we need hers, Evelyn said. Still. You should have told us, David said. No use in anyone else worrying about it but me. And anyway, we'll be back tomorrow and I will go see Professor Polendina immediately after. Heck, even the bullhead is from the Atlas Army, Evelyn said. You'd better. Or we're going to make you, Penny said. No need to worry, Penny, I'll single-handedly make sure Evelyn sees your father as soon as we get back, Deku said. Hey. Just because I'm small doesn't mean you can carry me around like a handbag, Evelyn said. That's debatable, David said. Guys, I promise I'll go see Professor Polendina as soon as we return, okay, Evelyn said. You better, David said. We should go now, we have some lunch to prepare. We'll see you tomorrow. Say hi to Jack from us, Deku said. We will. She wanted to call with us, but she suddenly got held up, David said. Take care of yourselves. And say hi to Professor Peach and Titania for us, Penny said. Love you too, David said. Love you. All of you, Evelyn said. Evelyn then ended the call. Her semblance then activated, causing her an extreme amount of pain. Evelyn, Deku said. Just one more day. It's fine. This doesn't affect me, Evelyn said. Evelyn. It clearly does. What's going on with your semblance? Deku asked. Alright, I'll come clean. My semblance has been activating randomly and causing extreme pain, Evelyn said. Evelyn. You should have gone back. If your semblance is hurting you, then there's something seriously wrong, Deku said. I know. But Professor Peach needs me just in case, and you are always saying to go plus ultra and surpass your limits, Evelyn said. I know. But that doesn't mean you should be ignoring any pain you feel and not overdo things. I know what happens when you do, Deku said. It's okay. It doesn't happen often, and we'll be back at Beacon tomorrow and then things will be put right, Evelyn said. That doesn't put me at ease. I'm still worried, Deku said. Then let me ease your worries, Evelyn said. Evelyn then kissed Deku. She then quickly forced her hat on Deku's head, covering his eyes. Deku lifted her hat up so he could see. He saw that Evelyn was running away. Hey! Get back here, you naughty rabbit, Deku yelled, giving chase. Deku quickly caught up and then tackled her, both of them landing in a patch of flowers, Evelyn on the ground while Deku was holding himself above her. Caught you, Deku said, as he now had Evelyn pinned by her arms. Evelyn's hat then fell off his head and landed on Evelyn's face. Evelyn then threw her hat off her face. Oh, no. I've been caught by a green fox, Evelyn said seductively. A fox? And here I thought I was more like a rabbit, Deku said. If that's so, then let's do what rabbits do, Evelyn said. What about lunch, Deku asked. I'm suddenly hungry for something else, and you've got a plump bunny for you to eat right in front of you, Evelyn said. Then I should dig in, Deku said. Evelyn and Deku then spent the rest of the day in the field of flowers. Back at Beacon, Jack had met up with Cinder. You didn't mention a time limit, Jack said. There wasn't one when I originally made the request. I need it done by next week, Cinder said. I see. Well, a deal is a deal. We'll hold up our own end, Jack said. Much appreciated, Jack. And do remember to be careful. A gargantuan grim is not something to take lightly, Cinder said. Obviously. But I wouldn't have accepted if I didn't think we were up to the task, Jack said. And I wouldn't have asked. Now, if you'll excuse me, Cinder said. Cinder then left. Something definitely came up with her, Jack said. I could feel her tension, a bit of irritation. But I don't think it was directed at you. Whatever brought this on, it was because of something else, Amber said. Well, at least once we do this, we'll be out of any business dealings we have left with her, Jack said. Oh, I definitely still have some business with her, Amber said. Thursday. Day 122. Your situation, physically, is completely fine. I'm sorry that we couldn't salvage your dress, Peach said. It's fine. I can just make another. I think. I didn't think I was so weak, Janara said. Take it from someone who also got her ass handed to her. You were just brash. Rushing headfirst into things. Of course, you'd get clock cleaned, especially when you're more of a long-range fighter, Titania said. You should leave close-range fights to your monsters, Deku said. You're strong against magic and got great attack, but you need to stay the hell away from physical blows. You're like a cannon made of glass, Evelyn said. I guess I am. And thank you for taking care of me, Janara said. Our pleasure. I'm just sorry that we can't stay longer. I don't think they will come back anytime soon, but just in case, Peach said. I've learned my lesson. I will stay hidden out of sight and let my creatures do the talking. Or breaking, Janara said. Nishishi. I'm starting to like you, Squirt, Titania said. Your transport is arriving, I think. You should go, Janara said. Indeed we should. We'll see you soon, Janara, Peach said. Professor Peach, Titania and Deku then headed to the landing site. Janara, I was wondering, Evelyn said. What is it, Janara asked. You sure you don't have any other memories before waking up in peak, Evelyn asked. That's a weird question. Yes, I'm sure. Why do you ask, Janara asked. When I used my semblance on you, Evelyn said. Evelyn's semblance then activated and caused her extreme pain. NGH. Not again, Evelyn said. Are you alright, Janara asked. I'm fine. Let's just forget about this conversation. Seems like if I talk about what Evelyn said, It then happened again. Shit. I can't even think about it, can I? Evelyn said. You're not fine. What's wrong? Janara asked. Gods, you sound just like Izuku. It's nothing. I should go. Bye, Janara, Evelyn said. Evelyn then left. You're not fine, Janara said. Back at Beacon, the rest of Team Jade were waiting for the others to arrive back. Any minute now, right? David asked. If the cruise speed has been maintained throughout the entire trip, the bullhead should be landing in 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Although, if that's the case, they should already be in range of my hearing, Penny said. You can hear that far? 3 minutes at cruise speed is a good distance, Jack said. It's not dissimilar to how you would strengthen your body with aura. I can just strengthen functions other than just durability and healing, Penny said. Useful, David said. But consuming. It's just that I can't wait until I see, Penny said. Children. There you are. I've been looking for you all over, Glinda said. Professor Goodwixth. What's wrong? David asked. Sorry for our non-presence, but we were waiting for the bullhead to bring Evelyn, Izuku, Professor Peach and Titania back, Penny said. That's exactly why I was looking for you. They won't be coming, Glinda said. What? What does that mean? What happened? Jack asked. I'm sorry, but the headmaster has called for an official investigation, so I cannot share the details with you, Glinda said. RUF, David said. Go to Penny's father immediately. He will be able to fill you in, Glinda said. Thank you, Miss Goodwitch, David said. I'm calling a transport right away, Penny said. A short while later the three had arrived at the lab ship. Seal, David said. You're late, Seal said. What do you mean we're late? David asked. Miss Goodwitch went looking for you half an hour ago. Where were you? Seal asked. At the landing. Waiting for them, Penny said. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, Seal said. Seal, it's fine, but will you tell us what happened already? Jack yelled. 43 minutes ago we received a mayday from the bullhead. 39 minutes ago we intercepted and decrypted the transport's last transmission. 30 minutes ago we confirmed the transport has crashed in the forest of Barito, Seal said. For the love of... You can't be serious. Why did they stray so far? That's almost in vacuo, Jack said. Bad weather. They had to circle around the storm formation, Seal said. What is it? What's this forest? David asked. The forest of Barito is a very peculiar ecoregion of the Vacuo-Valesian biome. It's a thick rainforest where forms of life exclusive to that region live, Penny said. Alongside particularly pernicious grim, some that normally only live in Vacuo or Mistral, Seal said. That's probably where Ozpin took the Walang from, Jack said. That's... How did the crash even happen if they were trying to avoid bad weather? David asked. Come with me. The professor is waiting, Seal said. The four then entered the lab. What happened to Miss Damarot? Enrico asked. Why? Why are you asking that? David asked. Papa, what happened? Penny asked. I ask that because this is the transmission we got from the bullhead, Enrico said. Enrico then played the transmission. Mayday. Mayday, we're going down. The hull's been breached. Cabin has lost pressure, the pilot yelled. Titania, watch out, Peach yelled. Easier said than. She's more slippery than an eel, Titania said. Please stop this. I know you're in. Deku said. The aircraft is in a near nosedive. I'm going to try an emergency landing in the... Oh gods, the forest of Barito, the pilot said. Miss Damarot, no. Stop this, Peach yelled. Send help to our position. One last thing, the breach was caused by one of the Paso gods, the pilot yelled. The finial thing they heard was a screech. Where is this place? David asked. Mr. Dik Begis, Enrico said. Okay, let me reword it. Tell me where we need to go, David said. Partner, calm down, Jack said. How do you expect me to calm down, David shouted. They dropped in the middle of one of the most dangerous places on Remnant, and rushing in without a plan will just serve to increase casualties. We are not going to be sitting this one out. Ozpin can go to hell. But we need a plan, and we need intel, starting with what the hell happened to Evelyn, Jack said. Permission to go find that out, David asked. Granted. Penny, go with him, Jack said. Affirmative, Penny said. David and Penny then left the lab. Mr. Polendiner, I dare not ask for another transport after what just happened, Jack said. Nonsense, Miss Ivory. It was an unforeseen circumstance. Wasn't it, Enrico asked. It was to us. Evelyn had seemed a little off, but she assured us it was under control. We could have pressed for more details, but her presence in Peak was pivotal to saving a life, as you already know, Jack said. Indeed. This is no doubt tied to Miss Damerot's aura splicing. I hope we're in time to help her, Enrico said. Me too. And speaking of aura splicing, would this sort of thing happen to Izuku, Jack asked. No. The effect of aura splicing in his body has given him extra aura pools. While Evelyn's aura splicing is the result of being possessed by that Grim. There's a significantly low chance of Izuku acting out like Evelyn, Seal said. That's good to know. Anyway, you sure you can secure us another transport? What about General Ironwood, Jack asked. Not just any transport, Miss Ivory. We're going to move towards our destination with this very airship. And James would never leave one of his men to die without at least confirming his fate first. But an extraction mission from such an area will be difficult, Enrico said. Yes, but not impossible. I actually have other business in that area that may work to our advantage, Jack said. May. What other variables, Seal asked. First, I need to know where the bullhead crashed, Jack said. Meanwhile. What the Titania said, stirring awake. You're waking up. That's good. That means we can stop soon, Deku said. Titania then fully opened her eyes to see trees moving away from her. She then realized that Deku was carrying her on his shoulder. She saw the pilot being carried on his other shoulder, completely passed out. She looked behind herself, towards Deku. She noticed that his mask was up and that part of his outfit was torn. Could you put me down please? Titania asked with a slight blush. No, can do. We need to go, Deku said. Go. Go where? Titania asked. As far away from the bullhead as possible, Deku said. But shouldn't we stay near the crash site? It'll be much easier for a rescue team to find us, Titania said. Well, unfortunately, we're in the forest of Barito. I've read about this place, and it's not the place you ever want to be in. The crash site will be crawling with Grim, Deku said. I see. Wait, where's Mom? Titania asked. I don't know. I jumped out of the ship carrying you two before she did. And I didn't see her after that, Deku said. Titania then began to cry. Mom, Titania said. Titania, Professor Peach is more than, Deku said. Deku then felt a sharp pain in his head. Catch, Deku said. Deku then threw Titania and the pilot off his shoulders. Titania was barely able to grab onto the pilot before crashing to the ground and losing her grip. Izuku. What the hell was? Titania yelled. Titania then saw Deku being encircled by a huge horde of Grim. Take the pilot and run, Deku yelled. Where? Where are the pilot? Said, starting to wake. The pilot let out a huge scream of pain. Titania then looked back to see a giant Grim crushing the pilot's leg. The Grim then screeched. Deku's face went pale as he recognized that screech. The Grim then went to crush the pilot's head. No, Deku yelled. Deku then charged out of the pile of Grim, sending the Grim flying back. Deku then crashed into the giant Grim, pushing it away from the pilot. Titania! Take the pilot and run, Deku yelled. But Titania said. Go, Deku shouted. Titania quickly grabbed the pilot and ran away. You may have heard these words before, Deku said. The Grim then charged at Deku. But I'll teach you what they really mean, Deku said. The Grim then threw a punch and Deku dodged out of the way and pulled back his fist. Go beyond. Plus. Ultra, Deku yelled, punching the Grim, but it wasn't affected. Deku then moved back out of the Grim's strike range. So you have the same powers. Then you will have the same name. No, Mew, Deku said. End of chapter 41.